that. Shoulders good.
It's got old man syndrome.
Keir
Mather.
Keir Mather, newly elected Selby Ainsty MP.
Indeed. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, excellent. Youngest MP in Parliament at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, not ever.
He's the youngest ever.
I think it's like William Pitt the Younger or something. He was like 17, which is...
said Churchill was 25 as well,
Churchill
right?
was 25 and Winston Gladstone was 22.
Oh, really?
Gladstone.
Oh, no pressure. These are big names.
They would have done a podcast though. So,
True.
You know what I mean? They would have had no idea what a podcast is.
Yeah, that's very true.
So quickly, let me just get this one thing out of the way. Is the baby of the house an actual thing?
It is an actual thing. So you have a baby of the house, and you have a father of the house as well. So there's a Tory MP called Sir Peter Bottomley, which is a great name.
It is a great name.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Sir Peter.
Yeah, he's father of the house. I don't know how old he is actually, but yeah, I'll be baby of the house for the foreseeable until we get someone younger.
Who's
maybe
the
at the next
next
election.
eldest?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, Nadia Whittome, who is Labour MP, she's 27. So
she was the previous baby of the house.
I'm sure she doesn't mind that I've bumped her off the...
Do you get any special perks for being baby of the house?
No, unfortunately not, apart from getting called it all the time. But that's okay.
It's not really.
And the good thing is whenever I go into schools, like in the local area, and tell them that I'm baby of the house, I always find it very funny. So it's a good icebreaker.
Yeah. A real good segue into what something I want to ask you about, and not ask you about, but mention. I mentioned to a friend of mine that you were coming on, and he said that you were in his kid's school because he said, "Oh, my son met you the other day, and you were talking about. I think you were talking about like the issue of spice. That's
somebody brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shocking, isn't it? It's an enormous issue, and I think
it's mental.
The good thing is that the entire time I've been in this role, it's been about 5 months now that I've been in this role. North Yorkshire Police were actually really proactive in reaching out to me when I got elected and saying, look, if you hear about concerns relating to anything and you're picking up on trends in Selby in the local area, feed them back into us and we can deal with them as quickly as possible. So the way that I've been approaching it is, it's like on Stay in a Hall last month. There was a bit of a spate of kind of antisocial behaviour, people trying to get into cars and stuff like that. It's just, if I pick up on it because people tell me and feed in, I can get that to the police as quickly as possible and help inform what they're doing. So it's good for people just to keep me in the loop as much as possible. Really.
Yeah, it's good that you're proactive in doing that as well. I mean, I don't want to be too derogatory, but the last dude who was our MP was, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but
I don't think he did an awful lot which made the people happy, basically. So,
and a lot of people
I think you're like a bit of a breath of fresh air at the moment.
Yeah, and a lot of people are unhappy with it in politics in general, I guess. But like, there's kind of like, there's an old lad where I worked the other day, he came in and he was quiet, he was having a chat to me, and he must have been like pushing 80, and he was like, "Oh, I never thought I'd live to see the country in a state," and there's a lot of things going on. So I think people like, even though I'm sure like you can't change it all on your own, but like just to see someone being proactive and actually engaging with the public is a step in the right direction.
I tell you what, though, I'm really glad, and I'm really I'm bloody privileged to have been given the chance to do this. Like, it is incredible, but it is also the bare minimum people should expect for their MP to actually to be present in their community and and accountable to them.
Yeah,
and
seems like it's part of a job,
Yeah, but I think you're right. That apathy, it's not really apathy. It's a sense of like, God, nothing really works in this country properly anymore. Like, all of the basics, like you want to get a bus to where you want to go, you want to get a doctor's appointment, you want to get your kid to the local school. Like, it just feels like all those obstacles that are being put in people's place. Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Me and Eve had a gig yesterday in York, and we went to we had to get public transport, and like we went to get the bus, and the bus was late, and we were like, oh, can we get the train? And like, is the train going to turn up on time?
Yeah.
And then we're like, what do we do? Like, we don't know, like, because the bus was going to be like really late, and we'll get to the gig late, and we're like, well, the train will get us there on time if the train's on time or turns up at all. And it's like, Jesus.
And you can't trust public services. That's the crux of it. And like, I don't drive, and I've got Tadcasters in this seat as well. So if I live in Selby, but if I want to go do an event or meet a community group or something like that in Tadcaster, takes me well over an hour to go by public transport via Sherburn up to Tad. Makes no sense. And it just feels like we've gotten to this stage because we've had like decades of underinvestment, lack of regard given to like, especially like in Selby and Ainsty, it's like lots of rural communities and lots of older residents as well.
Yeah,
and you get, and one of the things that I've picked up on, which particularly like annoys me, to be honest, is that there are lots of like elderly women who live in rural villages in this area who have got their bus passes, and all they want to do is like go to the shops in Selby or Doncaster, or like go to a doctor's appointment, and they can't because the bus doesn't run. It's like, you know,
your mum.
You should.
My mum, yeah.
You should deserve that in Britain in 2023. You should be able to get a
Yeah,
bus
you
to where
should
you
be
want to
able to
go.
get a
It's
bus,
not.
yeah.
It's
Do
not
you know
too
Hurst Courtney?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where I grew up.
Oh, right,
That's
okay.
where my mum still lives. She's been there for 40 odd years. Literally no buses go down that route anymore. Literally nothing. The only way to get into... Luckily, she drives and she's still capable of driving.
Yeah.
She doesn't like driving at night, though. But
That's fair enough.
she has to either go to Carlton or Haddleston. If she was to ever wanted to get a bus, she'd have to get to Carlton or Haddleston to catch that bus.
Yeah.
But then, you know, is it financially viable for a bus to go down that route just for one person? That's what you got to ask yourself.
Well, I think it's when you're in communities like this, when it's rural and stuff. I think they need to be there. And there needs to be the option, like Keir said, you know.
Yeah,
they need to go to the shops or whatever, and they can't. It's like, well, you have to.
But you're
maybe
right.
It needs to be
though,
the money being made elsewhere to be able to provide that just for that maybe 1 or 2, 3 people.
Yeah, or we've got to like think really creatively about it, right? So if you live in Sherburn and you want to get to Tad, North Yorkshire does a minibus that you can get, and it goes through like Saxton and those villages that connect the two towns.
Love them
That
villages.
you know, that's for like 10 or 15 people who need it and will use it every single day. You don't need a double-decker bus, but you need to think creatively about it.
I've always thought this, and it's something I thought about for quite a lot of the time I've been here. Is I've never really, especially like you said earlier about it being 2023, we have social media and everyone has a phone. Pretty much everyone has a phone and the ability to have social media. And then like when you're out at work in the daytime or whatever, how many cars do you see sat on the drive? Loads. People at home, and like someone drives to Selby from a village and they go on their own. You're like, why are we not got groups on Facebook where people are, I'm off to town, who wants a lift?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just for people, it's just things like that. Like we need to be more creative about that kind of thing. And if there's a scheme for it whereby like your petrol gets paid by the council, government, whatever, to do so, like it just gives an incentive for people to do that. And then rather than one person driving to Selby, environmentally as well, rather than one person in one car driving to Selby, you've got a car full of people because everyone wants to go. You know. Like that's the kind of creative thinking we need to be looking at, you know.
I mean, sometimes social media can be the evil of all evils,
Yeah.
but it can be a very useful tool.
Absolutely.
As well.
And I think you actually see the building blocks of that, I think, a lot in this local area, to be honest with you. You've got loads of, whether it's on Nextdoor or Facebook, right? You've got loads of community groups where people are like, oh, I need this thing fixed to my house, but I don't know how to do it. Can somebody come and help me? Or, oh, I'm giving this away. Would anybody make any use of it? Like, the building blocks are actually there for us to be able to use social media in a really good way. It's just in some ways there's more like heat than there's like light of people supporting each other.
There's always going to be somebody that disagrees or has something to say, you know. It's unfortunately that's
human nature.
That's what it's like.
It's good to have a healthy debate though, but like, you know,
healthy
exactly
debate for
good to have a
sure,
healthy debate,
but like,
some people can't have a healthy debate.
I don't necessarily think social media is the place to have a healthy debate, though. You know?
No, absolutely not.
It's just like outrageous comments about stuff. People get so mad. But yeah, I just don't read the comments. It's much easier.
Yeah. So I live in Sherburn.
All right,
Sherburn
okay.
in Elmet. That's where I live at the moment with my wife. And I've noticed you've been mentioning something about the recent spate of like burglaries in the area. I mean, what's the plans for that moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been liaising with the police about it because it was one of those things. It's interesting in North Yorkshire, like crime rises and it falls. Like you get an area of focus for like. So a good example is like county lines gangs, which doesn't apply to what's going on in Sherburn at the moment. But they'll pick an area, kind of locate themselves there. The police will get wind of it, crack down on it. It dies away for a while, and then it pops back up somewhere else. As the MP, it's my responsibility to like be really listening to people's concerns. And if people are saying, "Oh, actually, we're seeing a bit of an increase here of like suspicious behaviour or people trying to break into homes or into cars," and that's sort of what we started to see in Sherburn. And I picked it up at the don't know if you've heard of We Are Sherburn, this new group that's been set up. It's
I've not.
It's like it's really good actually. It's like a business and community group.
What was it called again? Sorry.
We Are Sherburn.
Sherburn.
It brings together like the local businesses in the town with local community groups, and it's like about joining the dots of like doing community action in Sherburn. But anyway, it got raised to me at that meeting there. So then I took that away, wrote to local constituents in Sherburn about it, and said, "Can you please just give me the evidence almost of when you've seen this happening?" Collected all that together, shared it with the police, and I think we've had some quite good feedback back about increasing patrols or increasing focus on the area. So
cool.
I think it will get hopefully should get better, but I am keeping a close eye on it.
Oh, brilliant! And obviously, you know, not instructing but guiding like residents to sort of keep certain things safe. Don't leave your keys like lying on a table where in full view of anybody, so they can I'll come and get that car. You know?
Yeah, I've probably got stuff to learn as well.
Yeah, and like putting all your don't take pictures of all your presents that are under the tree and stick them on Facebook. So, look at all these big pile of presents for my kids.
Look at this stuff you can come
it's a
steal.
heaven for a burglar, that isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. It's mad that I just burgling annoys me. Like,
well, it's an inconvenience, isn't it?
It is
a massive inconvenience.
Quite a massive inconvenience, yeah. In the middle of a cost of living crisis as well. I can't even imagine how awful it must be to wake up and
That's the I think the one thing that's like most people mention these days is the cost of living crisis, and I think that's something that like we probably need to ask you about, and like what your views on it are, because obviously it's obviously a national problem, so it's you're limited on your input and what you can do with that. But like, what do you see anything changing with that in the foreseeable future, or is it here to stay, as it were, or what do you think is gonna go?
I think so. Obviously, it's a complicated picture, right?
It's a very complicated picture, and it goes back decades. So
you talk about the cost of living crisis, and what the government says is, look, we've had a war in Ukraine, we've had COVID, we've had to make some really tough decisions, and basically we're all living through the fallout of it. And like, we can't pretend those things haven't happened. It's definitely had an economic impact, and a severe one, and like nobody's questioning that. The question is whether the government has made the right decisions to go far enough to protect people before those things happened, and then given them enough support after it's happened. So if you take the energy crisis for a really, as an example, it's true that the entire world was exposed to a big energy shock when Russia invaded Ukraine, but was the UK government, which has been in place now since 2010, sufficiently prepared in terms of like energy storage to be able to deal with that shock in the way other European countries were?
Yeah,
I don't think that's the case. And then if you look most recently at the autumn statement, the Chancellor has been saying that he's offered a big tax cut to people, so he's cut national insurance and things like that.
Sure.
But that's in a context where the tax burden is the highest it's been for 70 years.
Yeah, you're taxing 20% out of 8% higher than it was in the first place.
And when people, equivalent tax rises over the course of this Parliament have been equivalent to a 10% increase in the national insurance. So it's all fair and good to say you're cutting taxes, but are you actually doing enough to make a material difference to like the pound in people's pocket?
No, exactly.
I don't really think it's going far enough.
No, I'd agree.
And a lot of that comes down to the government taking better decisions about how to protect people in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. I would also argue that it's very frustrating from a point of view where I sit and the stuff that I look at, and I see energy crisis, for example, where you've got energy companies getting given tax breaks and making record profits while still charging more for their product, which comes out of our pocket.
Yeah.
But like, hang on a minute, you can't be giving the Tories are a business first type party anyway, so that's always going to be the case. But it's like when the energy overall energy costs start to drop again, come down for the big companies, they didn't drop their prices in line with that, and then we saw record profits for the big 4 or 5 energy companies without that coming back to us, and we're still paying the same rate. So it's all well and good saying, we're cutting the tax. Saying, we're cutting your tax. Like, yeah, but we're still paying way more for all the other products. Supermarkets haven't brought down their prices in line with what they're spending.
Yeah.
Their costs have gone down, but their cost is still high for us. So it's nothing's affecting, like you said about the pound in our pocket, nothing's affecting that for normal people, So.
And Labour was banging, and also as well, I'm obviously a Labour politician, so feel free to push back on any of this.
Don't worry about that, mate.
But I was going to say, just on that thing about energy companies, we were asking the government for God knows how long to implement a windfall tax that would have put more of this money back into the public purse.
Yeah, definitely.
And that you eventually dragged them kicking and screaming to do it, and then you haven't recouped all that you could have to make the energy firms pay their fair share. And it also frustrates. Well, you've got me on a rant now.
Go for it, mate.
But just one other thing that frustrates me is Jeremy Hunt has been stood there.
You're just going to say, what frustrates me is Jeremy Hunt.
Full stop. What frustrates me is that Jeremy Hunt at the autumn statement framed all of this in terms of like, we've had to make some really hard choices to give you this tax cut. Like, it's been so hard for us. I think he's forgotten that a year ago it was a Tory Chancellor and Prime Minister who crashed the UK economy and put us in this situation in the first place. It's fine to say we've had COVID and the war in Ukraine. That's very true. But things have been made so much worse by economic decisions that successive Conservative governments have made. And it does frustrate me that isn't like factored into how they think about the fact that we're paying the price for it almost.
Sure, I think the war in Ukraine is a good example of like COVID's a difficult one with everyone's got their own views on that, and it's a difficult one because it was a health crisis at its core. But the war in Ukraine is a difficult one because people are like, we feel bad for Ukrainian people, but we're giving them billions and billions, but we're paying more in tax and we're all struggling, you know? So there's, I feel personally that balance hasn't been struck between being like, you know, okay, we're going to support a country who needs us to support them, but at the same time, like the people in this country, especially in smaller areas, I mean, I don't know what it's like I grew up in Bristol, in a big city.
Oh, right,
I came here like 14 years ago. But the difference between like places like Selby and Bristol is just like night and day. Like Bristol's an affluent city. There's way more places like Selby around the country than there are like Bristol's. There's way more small pockets where people are really, really struggling. And again, like we kind of touched on it earlier, and you said about people like robbing even in the cost of living crisis, but we're seeing people robbing from like supermarkets or just normal people because they're skint. Yeah. You know? And like they're just skint and they don't want to be robbing. No. They don't want to be going to supermarkets and like, I got to steal this box of cereal to feed my kids, but they just are. I volunteered before I got this job I'm in now, like and start doing this again. Like I've been through a bit of a mental health crisis myself. Recently, and I came back. I was in Bristol for a while with my family, and I came back and I started volunteering at a food bank. I mean, the numbers are just, just crazy.
And then you've got people making the decision whether to eat or put the heating on. I mean, we shouldn't, in this day and age, we should not be in a position to be having to make that decision. Yeah, and God, like, I am glad those food banks are there, but I wish we lived in a society where they didn't bloody exist.
No, we didn't need them.
Like,
we shouldn't need them.
And like the most, it's funny what you say about the supermarket point, because I raised this in a speech in Parliament last week about the autumn statement. The most depressing thing, I think, when you walk into some British supermarkets in 2023 is that you see like baby formula that's got a security tag on it, and like
and the meats, like sirloin steaks, and
and the price of baby formula I think has gone up like 45%, and like people are in absolutely desperate situations, and it feels like at that moment where you really want a compassionate government to say, right, we're gonna be there for you. I mean, it's like the reform. Like, I don't know if you saw. I don't want to get into like the weeds on it, but like the government's reformed is reforming how they do like work capability assessments for people who are on universal credit.
I've just been in that situation, so
there you go. Yeah. So like you know how hard it is to like.
I'm still waiting.
Yeah, to fill in all that paperwork and whatever else, and we know under the existing system that some people are judged as being fit to work when they're not fit to work. There are errors in the system and people get sanctioned when they shouldn't be. But under this new regime, if you've not been kind of seeking work for a certain amount of time in their view when you're fit to, they'll stop your universal credit altogether. And how many people with disabilities are going to fall foul of that in the middle of a cost of living crisis when there aren't enough safeguards in the system, because we can see from the existing one that there aren't.
Definitely.
How many people is that going to put in an enormous crisis? We need the government to be like giving people a helping, not a free handout, but a helping hand. Do you know what I mean? And,
so if I go like to my situation, and like I'm lucky in many ways. I know I'm nowhere near the worst in the worst situation to deal with it, but like so when I started claiming back in, I was clearly unfit to work in like May, I guess, like that kind of time, and I signed on to Universal Credit, but that was May, and we're in November now, and I still haven't had a decision about whether they deem me fit for the period going back to May. Now, I'm lucky. I had people that lent me money to get through that time. I had some money coming in, so it was okay. Like I had money like owed to me, so it was fine. So I knew I was going to be all right. But I'm lucky. There's many people who are in that situation. Can't be waiting 6-7 months, because like at the moment Universal Credit's about $360 a month. What can you get with $360 a month as a single bloke? If I wanted to rent a flat, it would cost me anywhere between 800 and 900 quid for the flat alone in Selby. Like it would $850 would get me a room in a house in New York. That's before bills, council tax, everything else. I'm still waiting to hear about that. So if I wasn't able to get myself right, I mean, I'm pretty proactive when it comes to that and getting myself better mentally. I've struggled with mental health for years, so I'm good at getting sorted with it. Many people aren't in that situation. You can't live off that money, and you need to hear back quickly.
Yeah.
Because you're ended up paying stuff on credit cards, which means you go in more debt.
Yeah.
It's just an escalating thing, and it just gets worse, and you're finding yourself deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
So it's a real. The whole system needs to be looked
and
at.
it costs the state more money in the long run to help somebody who ends up in like a profound crisis because they can't get the help they need.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I think what kind of frustrates me as well is like there is absolutely no debate that we've got a massive problem in our labour market at the moment. We've got like almost 1 million vacancies of like, and lots of people who are out of work who could be in work, but like I completely reject this view that people aren't working because they don't want to. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, instead of, choosing to like help people get new skills and get back into work, or maybe sorting out the childcare system so that people can have a healthy working life and raise a family, instead it's like more stick than carrot, and it's like, let's try and find the people who are like abusing the system. And I'm sure there are people who abuse the system.
I think there is, without doubt.
Without doubt, there are always going to be.
But the question is, the government's own, the analysis of the government's figures shows that by 2028, 29, only 10,000 more people in a country of 67 million people will be in work as a result of these reforms. But how many people are going to suffer as a result of them? Is the trade-off worth it? Like, I don't really think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
It's and like there is going to be there's always going to be people abusing the system. And this is always been an argument for people who are against like universal income. For example, with AI coming, there was a big debate a few years back before COVID hit and stuff about AI taking over jobs, and it's inevitably going to happen at some point. And just because of the way the world is, the way it's going, but the people's argument was like, oh, you can't do universal income because people just laze around and take the money and do anything. I was like, yeah, most people won't do that. There'll be some people who get money from the government and do nothing all day and sit and play Xbox. You have to swallow these people up because there's thousands and thousands and millions of more people who will want to do something productive with their time, whether that's go and help people who are elderly and need help. There's other things people can do, and I think that's the same applies to, like you said, with universal credit at the moment, is that most people aren't abusing the system. They just want a helping hand because they're in a difficult situation,
Yeah.
So I think, there's people who abuse it, but you kind of have to swallow these people up and go, fine, we need to deal with it, but like that's going to happen. But most people aren't. I think the Tories especially have this view that everyone who is claiming universal credit is some sort of scumbag who's just laying around claiming benefits, smoking weed and playing Xbox, which just ain't the case with most people, So it is a difficult one, but I think it's not, I don't like the reforms.
But then, on that note, there has to be jobs there for people to apply to.
I think there have to be good jobs.
But then when you've got the supermarkets, they're constantly banging self-service tills in, and that's taking away the jobs of the counter people.
But I think the point there actually is about like giving young people skills that kind of future-proof them for how much things are going to change.
Yeah.
Like, so for example,
yes.
So I was at Selby College.
Reskilling, right?
Yeah. I was at Selby College recently, and they want to. And I think this is right. They can correct me if I've got it wrong. But I think they want to offer courses doing like carbon capture and training people on like carbon capture and storage and things like that. Because the Humber region, fingers crossed, is going to become like the green energy epicenter of Britain if we're going to do like decarbonisation properly. So young people in Selby now need to be ready in 10 years' time or in 5 years' time to go into those jobs that don't even exist yet. And like having that understanding between like businesses and higher education providers and things like that is really, really crucial. So I'm glad there's thinking going on in our local area about that as well, because these jobs are brill. Like,
but if the jobs don't exist, how are you going to persuade a young school leaver or college person to go and study something for something that may or may not happen?
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's a
big question.
Really. I think that's about looping in the businesses and getting them in there
getting
and
them
saying,
look,
colleges, this is where we are moving. This is what we've got an ambition to do. Are you gonna come with us? And I think that like we talk a lot about the north of England and how it's changed since heavy industry kind of died away in the 1980s.
Yeah, of course.
And like we're not going to go back to that because we need to have an industrial revolution which is fundamentally green this time. But what was so attractive about it was that you could go into an industry and have like a well-paid job for life in the community that you were born in, grew up in and loved, and you could raise a family and get on doing something that mattered, that had national like significance. Do you know what I mean? If you were a coal miner, you were literally like powering Britain. That was your job.
Pretty
and
much,
people had pride in that.
Selby's quite big. Obviously, I don't think the mine is it's not a working mine anymore.
No,
there was Selby coal mine. Was that the Wistow one?
Yeah, that was where
it.
Yeah.
A separate one, or is that the?
It was
a
Selby Super Pit, so there were lots of pit heads, and then the last one closed in 2015. Actually, the very last one.
Yeah, and I think that's something. The pride thing is something that is important. Like there are, like you said, you touched on earlier, and you said there's a lot of vacancies, but there's not a lot of jobs that are like something to be proud of. There's not like a lot of jobs where you can be like, oh, I'm doing something worthwhile here. There are a lot of jobs that are just you turn up, you get paid, you go home. And I think certainly me and a lot of people have spoken, they're yearning for that sort of thing, that they can like be part of an industry or something they can be proud of, and especially for some local community. So, if that's the way it's going, good, because it's
Yeah, I think though one thing we have seen, which I'm really glad about, is that a lot of that debate we used to have that kind of devalued certain jobs, I think, has been thrown out the window by COVID. Like especially like shop workers who as a lot of the things that used to tie communities together have fallen away. It's actually that friendly face in the supermarket, that person who's like giving you a helping hand with your shopping or whatever. Like all of that means so much to people these days. Like I'm really glad actually that one of the positive results of what was a really traumatic experience for the entire country through COVID is that we actually treat service workers with proper regard and respect for what they did as key workers. And like but yeah, I agree, like with dignity across the workforce is something that we definitely need to fight for, no question.
And I think I recently kind of started part-time at a supermarket, and is what it is. Would rather not, but I'm there. But it's, I feel that the kind of goodwill that came out of COVID is starting to ebb away again. The people that I've seen treating some of my colleagues with utter disdain, it's like they're still doing a job that's important to you,
Yeah.
I think that's not necessarily about anything the government can do. It's just it's a people thing.
What's the phrase? All heroes wear
not all heroes wear capes.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, though, they've instituted a law in Scotland which makes like assaulting a retail worker like a specific offence.
Oh, okay.
So you never know. The government can do something about it, and I think there's discussion about it. I saw some of it around the King's Speech and the crime reforms there. So you never know.
I don't know anything about the crime reforms at all. What's going on there?
What in regard to what the government's putting forward?
Yeah.
Well, see, this is like the interesting debate, especially in our part of the world, because when I was standing in my election, the government was saying, "Oh, we've got 200 new police officers on the streets of North Yorkshire," and it's like, "Hey, do you have any idea how big North Yorkshire is? Like, it's absolutely it's like from Scarborough down to here and higher. Like, it's nuts." But also, that's like replacing the police officers who've been cut since 2010. Do you know what I mean? So it's like what frustrates me a bit in our policy making at the moment is that it's like it's papering over the cracks a lot of what is fundamentally quite a broken system, and actually what you really need is kind of wholesale reform. And like, I think the experience of quite a lot of people is that like petty crime happens, but it's not petty in your eyes. If you have like your bicycle stolen and it's your way of getting to work, that's an enormous impact on your life.
Yeah, of course it does.
But because of like underfunding or whatever else, people don't have the confidence that if you report that to the police, it'll get actioned and they'll take it, because there's not often the resource. And like, it frustrates me, the like short-termism of how we try and deal with issues.
Very
like
shortism, and it's very, very papering over the cracks to. Yeah, it's not like a
quick fix.
No, they're trying to do quick fixes that don't. There isn't a quick fix to be done. They're doing quick fixes that aren't going to fix it. They need to be looking at bigger things. So we've been doing. Ian said I had to mention this, and I nearly forgot. If I didn't, you'd go mad, wouldn't you? So he's over there. But we've been doing a lot of work with. Well, we started doing this. The reason we started doing this podcast was to promote the local area, because. We've been trying to do stuff musically, but like, I really like it here. Like I said, I grew up in Bristol, big city, loved it. Came here, was a bit shocked at first because I'd never lived in a small town, but I love it here. Like I came back here, could have because of life events, I could have ended up staying in Bristol, but I wanted to come back here. But we're trying to like promote the area. Like we're getting businesses in at the moment. We've had a few podcasts with local business owners. We've got loads. When we booked up too much. We booked it to March for people to come in and do with podcasts and stuff. So I guess we just kind of like want to know is there any plans afoot like in Selby to change it at all? What's the kind of local scene looking like from your regard? Like what we're doing, how a business is going to get supported in the future if anything like COVID happens again? Is it going to be the same sort of thing? Like what's what's your kind of view on the local area and how you see it growing? I guess.
Definitely. I think, man, I bloody love Selby. Like, it's such an amazing town.
I really like
and
it.
the
Yeah,
people
I
are
do like it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, I often get asked, like, when I do like national media or whatever, like, what do you love most about being an M? And it's actually like it's getting to engage with people here, and like the really good thing.
They're
I
good
think,
sort.
yeah, the really good thing.
You live in Selby, yeah.
Yeah. I think the really good thing about people's attitude toward their MP, but also just to like politics generally, is that they'll give you a fair hearing, but they won't like give you an easy ride. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, yeah,
and I think that's really, really healthy, to be honest.
Oh, yeah,
like,
definitely.
Keeps you on your toes.
People are so well informed about politics, want to hold you to, and I think that's bloody brilliant. And I think that kind of like energy and determination to succeed feeds through to so many different things that are happening in Selby. Whether that's like small businesses, like there's a business called Semperfly in Selby. I don't know if you've heard of them. They do like, I'm really bad at explaining this, but you know those people who do like fishing flies, and you have to make it look like a little animal or whatever to catch the fish.
Oh right, yeah.
They are like the second biggest like provider of that to America. They are like a worldwide international firm that is based in Selby. They are amazing. Yeah,
Literally never heard of them.
Give them a look. Or like the Doghouse Pub is a perfect example of like a local small business that is offering something really kind of unique and cool and like future focused and interesting.
I really like if you've been to the place opposite Costa, they do the what's it called? Where they make what's it called?
They're like ceramics.
The ceramic stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I like to see.
Exactly.
You know. I think we've seen. I've got another goddamn supermarket and blah. And like, I want to see more small businesses succeed because I think it's just a cooler vibe, you know, like to the town.
And
we've got
on top of that, if businesses succeed, then that creates more jobs for people.
Absolutely,
It just creates more, and it creates more affluence in a way, not necessarily monetarily, just like, oh, we're more proud of like a affluence of pride, you know, like all the way, like this is great, like we've got all these cool things going on, you know.
But you see that, right? And also as well, like the small businesses in the centre of town are cracking, and they are facing some real challenges around like business rates, VAT thresholds, like loads of stuff that the government needs to crack on with.
100%,
out. But also as well, what I think like speaks to Selby's success and future success is that like when we've had things like Oktoberfest, and every time we have a Selby like a market day, all these like micro businesses, which could be like 1 or 2 person businesses who come along and they set up their stall. There's loads of people who have like got independent craft stuff, art stuff, baking, like loads of people doing really interesting stuff, and it's all here on our doorstep. We just need to, like, I think one of my responsibilities as the MP is sort of creating that platform to like scream and shout about all this good stuff that's going on.
One of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is to try and find interesting people who are doing cool shit and to promote it. Like that's what we're about. Like that's what we like. That's what we want to do. When we spoke to Ian about doing this, and that was kind of part of the thing, is like we tried to do something musically. Obviously, our business is music, and we'd like to see that getting better in terms of like a kind of original stance and having more places to go to do that. But just generally, like cool, if there's cool stuff going on. But the business rates are a real issue. We spoke to, he went to see Vicky from Busy V's. You know, she was, bitching and moaning about the business rates and all that.
It's such a massive issue.
And it's so expensive. Like, she's barely making any money, and like she's like working. She's up at like 4:30. She's not leaving till gone 5. And she's got kids at home. Just to make ends meet, she has to work harder, take on more like business, take on more jobs that she doesn't want, like big catering things she doesn't want to do because she's trying to like get the coffee shop success, and it's bonkers, So we need to do something like that, like get
vicious circle.
we need to do something about that and get these rates down so that people can afford to own these shops.
And it's a bit technical as well, but this like this point about VAT thresholds, like really frustrates me because it basically forces businesses to like stay small. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't want to go over that threshold.
You don't want to go over that threshold
where you start getting charged.
Like him, that's what
and
I stay way below that.
It's like, how insane is that? What we hold back British business from like growing in the way that they want to, and creating more jobs, creating more wealth that gets like trapped in the local community. It's wrong-headed, and like
for sure, it's wrong-headed,
the business rates relief is another good example. Like, I'm really glad there's business rates relief. There's a question of why they just roll it over every year instead of making it permanent. But that's a whole different question. I'm not really sure what the right place to land is on that. But it basically, to stay within the band for the relief, you have to stay small as a firm. Just when we want them to be growing, it's holding people back.
It is backwards thinking. It doesn't make any sense, and it stops the small businesses from growing. If they could get a bit bigger, they would be, just a bit more successful and make the town more abuzz. If you've got a bigger, more successful
I think
business.
You just need a comprehensive overhaul of business.
Without doubt, it's not even a question. It needs to be sorted. It's outrageous.
But then some people like to be a small business.
Like
me, I don't want to sort of grow beyond that threshold. But it's just an individual choice.
That's fine. It's absolutely fine if you don't want to grow.
You should have the option, though.
You should be able to.
Exactly.
You should be like, I want to get bigger, but I remain small because I know that if I go over a certain amount or take, I gross a certain amount, I'm going to be paying way more tax than I'm going to afford. That makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's really frustrating. And then I guess on a national level, I guess it must frustrate business owners when they see businesses like Amazon and Google paying almost zero tax because they can get away with it, and then all I want to do is hire another employee and make an extra 20k a year, but I can't do it because I'm going to end up getting less money because it's just bonkers. It's the whole whole thing makes no sense.
Some specific problems we have in this local area as well, and I tell you, if you haven't had her on, I would get Heidi Green from North. I
know
Yorkshire
Heidi.
Council.
I know Heidi.
She is amazing, and she can talk about these issues way better than I.
You'll have to put a bit of a word in for us then.
Oh yeah, I will. Yeah,
I've met Heidi a few times.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She is.
But one issue that gets raised when I've met businesses with her is it's a really practical thing. It's like you go to Sherburn, to the industrial estate, right, and they've got these enormous sheds, which are really good if you're a multinational firm. You need to employ a couple of hundred people. That's great. We don't have any medium or small sized sheds for SMEs.
And they're building some more further down the
so we're getting more massive
well,
ones, but not enough small. And it's just stuff like that that's really frustrating. And
there are some little pockets of small ones on that area as well, which are quite good because you get a sort of a biggish unit which is kind of split into 3 or 4 or 5 units, and they're much smaller companies.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Sherburn Industrial Estate.
Yeah.
They've got those big warehouses.
They're building so you've got a Sainsbury's distribution centre.
Oh, I see. I'm with you. Right.
That's been there.
Yeah, I've caught up now.
Since I can remember.
Were you saying sheds? I thought you meant people just getting sheds built.
An enormous 300-person shed.
Best man cave ever.
But saunas. They're building they've built it's phase 2, I think it is. But they've been building the big, humongous things right opposite these lovely houses. I bet they're well happy.
They're delighted.
You look out the front window and all they see is just industrial revolution or whatever. I don't know. It's just right, I'm selling up. I think one's already been put up for sale already. So
we're running out of time with you, Keir. We don't want to keep you too long, mate. We know you've got an important dignitary to meet up with and stuff. But I guess let's. Quick fire.
Oh God!
Get
no
to know
pressure.
Some quick fire.
All
Get to it'd be nice ones. It's about you. Get to know your questions.
Okay.
This will be a good highlight. Write it down, producer lady.
So, what's the first one? Should we go down the music route?
Let's go music. Music. Because we're musicians, so let's talk about music.
Oh, that's a really good question. Do you know what? I've got a really eclectic.
Good.
Let's go. So do we.
No, but proper all over the place.
Oh yeah. I go from Osmonds to Spice Girls to System of a Down to Slipknot. So don't worry about that.
That's fair. I like a bit of Spice Girls actually.
I do like a bit of Spice Girls, mate. I love Spice Girls.
There is a band though. When I got asked this by the Daily Mirror during the by-election campaign, I said Queen because Queen is my long-standing favourite band since I was a kid.
So ours as well, yeah.
But there is another band called Black Country New Road. I don't know if you've listened to them. They're really good. They're like an indie band and their music's proper weird, but it's very good. So I'd recommend listening to that.
Nice. From this country?
They are. They're from down south somewhere.
But
this is actually a bit of a brag. But last night I actually got to hear Elton John do a speech in Parliament, which was pretty. That was pretty good.
What was he doing a speech in Parliament?
It's like AIDS Week at the moment. So the All-Party Parliamentary Group for HIV and AIDS did an event with his foundation, and their kind of ambition is to end all new transmissions of HIV by 2030.
Oh, cool.
So he came to Parliament and was welcomed in by the Speaker and stuff like that. And he did a big long speech. And tell you what, he was amazing.
He's
really good. Yeah, he's got that star.
Do you like Elton John's music then?
I do. I wouldn't say I'm a super fan, but but that was really, really cool. You really did. You were I'm in the presence of greatness here, and for such a good cause as well. It was.
So is it indie music your go-to, or?
Man, I'm all over the place. I could have a bit of drum and bass, have a bit of indie.
Drum and bass.
Don't cut me out. Don't cut me out.
I'm from Bristol. That's our bread and butter.
Yeah, exactly.
That's our bread and butter down there.
But this is I think one thing I hadn't really done is talk to any national media about because there's a lot of fixation about just after I won, like all the big newspapers were like, oh, maybe the House 25-year-old
Ooh,
won the
young, yeah.
election. And it's like, actually, do you know what? Like, I've got a lot of quite serious political issues that I care about and that my community needs me to get cracking on.
Yeah.
So, like, I like talk about it, but I don't really want the Daily Mirror to be like, oh, he likes this band and this band.
likes
But
this
like,
band.
I like chatting to you guys about it. But I've tried to,
Got to tell us
but
about
I
it.
kind of steered away from it just because, like,
Yeah, that's fine, mate. Yeah. Just because as a little clip.
Oh,
to
no,
get to
I
know
like,
you,
no,
mate.
you crack on. I like chatting about it with you guys.
Sport.
So you're a Hull Kingston Rovers fan.
I am.
aren't
Done his
you?
research,
am.
the boy.
So
I am.
you were born in Hull? Was it Brough? You were born.
I was
Brough
born
or-
in Hull and then lived
Born in
there
Hull.
till I was about 12 and then moved out to Brough.
To Brough. How long were you in Brough for?
Until I was 18 and went to uni.
Oh, right,
cool.
because I have got.
Have you got
So,
an envelope?
yeah,
Ripped up envelope.
It
Just shit
was,
written
well,
down.
I've been making some notes, and you know
Yeah.
when you put notes on your phone.
Oh, yeah,
Put
yeah.
my phone's there doing the video.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
So I had to write everything down.
Oh, that's good.
So the only thing I could find was an envelope for something that I got to
I like
this
it. Don't worry
morning.
about.
So you've got obviously education.
Yeah.
So you've got a first in history and politics.
I
and
do.
politics.
I do,
We
yeah.
haven't gone to sport yet.
Oh, we're still on spot.
Are we still on sport?
Oh, right. Sorry. So we're on about Hull Kingston Rovers.
Yeah.
What's
Okay.
that? I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it's
Rugby league.
rugby league.
Oh, rugby league. I don't give a shit about rugby.
Greatest sport in the world.
What are you
Rugby league,
talking
rugby
about,
league,
mate?
it's better than rugby
You're from
union.
Bristol, so you've got rugby union on the
Rugby's
brain.
just
That's
crap
the-
in general. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, rugby league is much more entertaining than rugby
It
union.
is,
I
it is.
find.
It's a lot more high impact.
If
Five
I was gonna,
tackles.
if I was going to pick one, I would pick rugby league. So I'm
Yeah.
on your side there, but I'd rather watch football any day of the week.
I
or
like
cricket.
Both codes though. I'm dead into.
Do you play?
I do. I'm enthusiastic, but I'm not very good.
What do you play? Which position do you play?
Winger or
Winger. I
fullback.
knew you
Yeah,
were gonna
that's
be
the
a winger.
only
I knew
place
you
I
were
can
gonna
go
be
without
I was a
dying,
winger because
to be
I'm
honest.
5'2". You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
Like,
love playing, but like right before the by-election, actually, I played a rugby match. Actually, it wasn't even a match. I was just training, and I broke my little finger,
Oof.
but I broke it quite badly, and I had to have surgery on it. And I had these two like metal pins sticking out of my hand for the first like 3-4 weeks of the campaign. So every time somebody opened the door, and I'd be like, oh, sorry, and I could, but at least it was a good icebreaker.
Oh,
'Cause
cool.
I could, yeah.
So you don't like not into football then?
I'm not into football massively.
Cricket?
But, great, no.
Oh God.
No,
I'm
just
lost.
rugby
I'm
league
fr-
then.
yeah,
I'm
just
lost.
rugby league,
Just a
yeah.
rugby fan.
But I can't because you don't want to do a David Cameron, right? Where he got asked what football team he supported and he couldn't even like name them.
remember this,
Was it
yeah.
like
Oh, I
Aston
can't
Villa or
believe he's
something he
back
said he
again.
went?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I know he's back. Yeah,
Oh.
blast from the past.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so I'm not going to pretend I'm a massive. I like watching football, but I love coming
like-
down to Selby Town as well. Like many
Yeah,
of you,
Summertime
and,
Football Club.
yeah.
Woo. Yeah, we'll be interviewing them again soon, no doubt. You don't drive, do you? So you're not into cars.
No,
Not into cars
but
at all.
I'll get my license and I'll come back and we can
Because
do
of
round
what-
2 on the cars. Yeah.
Well, I'm learning soon as well, so we'll be driving courses, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, probably something more electric. Food.
Food. Man, I'm a terrible cook. That's the first.
Okay, you're separate cook. So
I'm
favorite food for eating out.
absolutely awful.
Eating out. What's your go-to for eating out?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
What flavour? Italian.
Do you know what? I love a curry.
Love
I
a
love
curry.
a curry.
Love a curry.
But
What's
then
your
you've
favourite
got-
curry? Do you like the spice?
I do, but only to an extent.
To an
Sometimes
extent.
I think I really am into the spice, and then I get one. I'm like, oh, I've gone too far this time.
Bit off.
Yeah.
Pour
Then,
on the
like, if you go to Jinnah and you choose one of the spicy ones, you better be ready because
Oh, I love. I've
We're
got,
not
I've
a-
got a really good chili
We're not a
tolerance.
Jinnah
so-
fan. We're a Larage fan, aren't we?
Oh really? Oh, fair enough.
we're from
Hey,
Larage.
other brands are available. They're all very nice at once themselves. But then there's the big Kingfisher or Cobra debate. If you're a beer drinker,
I don't drink. I'm
with the
drink.
curry.
oh, don't you? Oh, well, that's
I'm
easy
with you
then.
on this one. With
Easy.
the curry, I would
Coke.
have to say Kingfisher.
Really, I'm a Cobra man.
Ooh.
I think.
Yeah.
Ooh, the
Yeah,
division,
but
the
they
divisions
both,
are starting
they
to
both
show.
work really
I
well
would-
with,
yeah.
with the curry.
Back in the day, I would have chose Cobra though. To be fair, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm outvoted here then.
Cuts
Eve,
through.
come on,
Yeah.
come with the
don't drink.
Kingfisher.
Dad always gets Cobra.
There.
You're on your own, bro. Of course, you can ask a question.
Favourite animal?
Oh,
favourite animal.
I love cats. I'm a
cats, yeah.
If it was
He's got
cats or
two.
dogs, I'm a.
He's
I'm
got
a
two little
Yeah, I've just
kittens.
got two. Just moved into how we lived in Sherburn for 10 years. We bought our own house.
oh, lovely.
It's
Immediately
proper,
bought kittens.
It's a proper doer-upper.
Yeah.
And then ended up, we were getting one kitten, and then turns out one of the sisters, kind of somebody was supposed to have it, they didn't get it. So says, all right, let's have them both. It's the
Yeah.
best thing ever. They're only like 5 months
Oh,
old.
that's amazing. I love how grumpy they are. I don't know. I know it's odd, but like
I like them both.
Yeah,
The
I ain't got a
best thing
favourite.
is they just don't give a shit.
I know.
You know,
It's quite funny.
One of
how
them's
they-
like really. One of them's like quite intelligent.
Yeah.
She's quite curious. Well, they're both quite curious, but she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one's just gung ho.
Yeah.
Just don't
They've
give
always
a
got
crap
different
and just dives
personalities,
into
don't they?
everything.
They have different personalities.
Yeah,
Do you
which is really good.
if you like cookies, he's baked some cookies. So
Ooh,
help
yeah,
yourself
well
after
done.
we'll
If
finish.
you want to take some away with
Take
you,
some with
Thank
you.
you, yeah.
Give
She's
one to the
great.
My
German
office will
dude.
be over the moon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take as many as you want. We've got loads more at home.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you want to ask anything from your
I
side?
just got one quick question.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Obviously, you've been campaigning a lot for an SEND school.
Yeah.
In the Selby area. What's the progress on that?
Sure. So I've been having lots of discussions about it, and it felt like it was like stuck in the mud for so long. So frustrating as well when the funding's been allocated since 2019 for the school, and a spade's not even gone in the ground
Wow.
yet. That is so for all those families who like
4 and a bit years later.
Yeah,
it's
it's
should be
really
happening quicker
frustrating.
than that.
So we've been having lots of conversations with North Yorkshire Council, with the people who are going to provide the school like physically, and the Department for Education, and I think they're saying now that it should be open by January 26, I believe is what they're saying, which is obviously not ideal.
Well,
but at least we know, we have a sense of like certainty that we can build forward on and like keep the pressure up, because
is there a location for this?
yeah, it's going to be in Osgoodby, near to the roundabout in Osgoodby.
Because,
So not far from the garden centre. Sorry.
So, you're right. He's a TA and she works with a lot of SEN kids, and it seems like we do definitely need like a school.
Desperately.
And that's super close as well. That's really good.
And we've got this situation, this like ludicrous situation at the moment, where kids have to go in taxis like every single day, in some cases up to Scarborough or to Harrogate to get the support they need. And like they have to get up at like silly o'clock in the morning. It like ruins their parents' day. And also as well, like if say you're a child who's like non-verbal autistic and you've got to get in that taxi every single day, like you've got no real way of being able to tell the impact it's having on
you don't know what's going on.
Like so it's like it's deeply concerning, to be honest, and it does need some really urgent action.
It really seems like it's becoming more of a. I don't know whether it's becoming more, but certainly I think maybe the awareness that we have now of the things, it's like there's so many people that need that support now.
Absolutely,
it just needs to be sorted quickly, because it's not only does it impact them, it impacts their learning, it impacts the learning of others, because they're having to go into mainstream schools. They need specialist attention. We don't have enough teachers. So it's a whole it's
and
a whole
for
thing.
For the parents as well, like I've
for everyone.
I've chatted to so many parents who love their kids, understand the potential of their kids, and like how much they can like go out and contribute to the world. They just need the right support to be able to do it.
Of course,
but also like those parents want to be able to get a job, want to be able to go out, want to be able to live their lives too, which I don't think is like I think should be an unrealistic expectation.
It should be unrealistic that you should be able to have some time for yourself.
Yeah, but because they're like waiting for an EHCP, or they can't get their kid into the right sort of school, they're kind of trapped in this like cycle as well, and they desperately need some help. So I'm going to keep on banging the drum about it, and I can't like click my fingers and make stuff happen.
Sure.
I really, God, I wish I could. But I'm gonna really keep it up with the Department for Education and keep pressing for it.
You're a legend. Thank you for giving us up so much of your
Thank
time.
you. It's been a
Really
pleasure.
generous of you. Thanks. Nice to meet you. And subscribe, like, all that shit. And we'll see you soon.
Like that. Thanks, Keir.
Thank you.
Thank you.